Oh my word, this is crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, let me formally introduce you to the Samsung CRG9, the most striking monitor I think I've ever drawn eyes on. It's packing a display that's not only super sharp, but bright and vivid too, with support for proper HDR 1000 and as smooth as butter thanks to its 120Hz refresh rate. But should you actually put one on your desk and buy one? That's a more difficult question, and one we'll be answering after a very short word from our sponsor, Corsair and the K95 Platinum XT. If you're after an uncompromised keyboard for gaming, then look no further, as with fully mechanical blue and speed switches, double shot PBT keycaps and irresistible IQ enabled RGB lighting, the K95 Platinum not only looks gorgeous, but lets you play your best game for years to come. You can even use the programmable macro keys with Elgato's awesome Stream Deck software for on-the-fly stream controls and computer shortcuts. Get yours today with the links down below. Now I'm going to cut straight to the chase here. The CRG9 is an incredible bit of kit, and if you're the right sort of gamer, then this really could be worth every penny. But if you're not, it might actually prove a little bit of a hindrance for you. And to really understand why, you have to look at just how huge this thing is. For context, this desk here is just under 2 meters wide, it's custom made, 192 centimeters to be exact, and just look how much space it takes up. It is absolutely ginormous. Granted, I do have two very big speakers and a PC on the desk as well, but the point is that you're going to need something very tailor-made, shall we say, to actually accommodate such a large display. The reason for this heft is that it actually replicates two 27-inch monitors sat directly next to each other, with the benefit of only needing one power cord, no ugly bezels between them, and being able to actually center your content without twisting your body on your chair. Something that no one's really going to tell you about, but if you've ever used dual monitors, you'll know exactly what I mean, and a monitor like this really can make the world of difference long term. Now, as far as specifications are concerned, this pretty much has all of them, right? It's got a resolution of 5120 by 1440, so it's like having two Quad HD monitors. You've got 120Hz refresh rate, AMD FreeSync 2 with HDR, and of course you do have HDR 1000, so this thing is fully kitted out. This certainly is the dream specification for many, and other than a couple of flaws here and there, there's not really any hidden nasties underneath, and all does work as intended. When paired with an RTX 2080 Ti, I was zooming through Apex Legends like nobody's business, and I'm pleased to report a victory in less than 24 hours. Really not too shabby at all. The 32:9 aspect ratio is just crazy. A little intimidating at first, to be honest, with sheer monitor panel just shoved right in your face, but as there's a smooth curve and then a subtle field of view distortion, this thing is actually surprisingly comfortable after the initial shock to the system. I do, however, say that this wouldn't be my monitor of choice for fast-paced FPS titles, as while it's immersive, you do get a small amount of motion sickness. Nothing serious, and it does get a lot better over time as you get used to it, but it's enough that I wouldn't want to sit and play this for hours on end. And there's also another bit of a flaw, unfortunately, with the fact that this uses a VA panel. It does mean that you get fantastic contrast, the colours are great, but it does introduce a little bit more motion blur than I'd like. It's certainly not bad per se. It's actually a huge step up over some of the other ultrawide VAs I've tested, but it's enough to give a degree of blur to fast-paced games like Apex Legends whenever you're moving around or scrolling at speed. In fairness, I have just come from using a true 1 millisecond IPS panel from ViewSonic, and it's not nearly enough to actually stop me recommending this to anyone, but a 240Hz TN or a 1 millisecond high refresh rate IPS display is going to be more suitable for those of you that exclusively play FPS games like Apex or Call of Duty. Oh, and while you can actually improve the blur with a higher overdrive setting, this option weirdly gets disabled when you're using AMD's FreeSync, which is a real bummer. Perhaps the biggest problem with this though isn't actually anything to do with Samsung, it's not their fault, it's the fact that a big screen like this, with a lot of pixels, requires a lot of GPU horsepower to actually drive, and you need games that will actually support this format, and it's a little bit easier said than done. A lot of games just won't properly support the aspect, so you get black bars or stretching whenever you're trying to play, but more importantly, the incredibly sharp 5120 by 1440 resolution is so difficult to drive, especially at 120Hz. We're looking at 7.3 million pixels here, versus around about 8.3 on a 4K screen. So yes, it's not quite as hard as a UHD TV to drive, but realistically you're going to need something like an RTX 2080 or a Radeon 7 to truly unlock this and get the most out of it. This might sound like I'm being very negative at this stage and that perhaps maybe I don't like it and you shouldn't buy it. Well, actually that really couldn't be further from the truth, because as long as you're aware of those flaws, this is actually so easy to recommend, and to be honest, I absolutely adore this display. Image quality is excellent, with the quantum dot equipped VA panel providing well over 100% of this RGB color space and 95% of DCI P3, with wide enough viewing angles that you don't really need to worry about color shift in most normal scenarios, but of course it's not going to be as good as an IPS panel. And something like the PG27UQ, I would say actually still beats us out, not only in terms of viewing angles, but actually in terms of color as well. But I think most of us are unlikely to take issues with this unless you're working with dedicated serious color applications on the daily and you're willing to pay almost twice the amount of money for your display. Because this is designed to be used in place of two 27-inch monitors, snapping in windows works unlike any other display I've ever really used. And sure enough, multitasking with this is just insane. You get two display ports as well as HDMI, so while you're going to want to make sure you have a DisplayPort 1.4 equipped PC for the full resolution and refresh rate, it's very easy and simple to use two sources side by side for maybe easy streaming or watching maybe TV on one side and then using your computer on the other. It's fantastic. And when you do fire up a big program like Resolve that can display your entire timeline across the whole width of the screen, productivity is bound to see a huge boost. All of this, and we haven't even talked about this trump card, HDR 1000, the best specification you can get, right? You're looking at a peak brightness of 1000 nits, which is fantastic for the eye-catching moments like explosions, in addition to the extra color volume that's enabled by the HDR10 specification. My game of choice was to boot up Mass Effect Andromeda for my testing, and I was really quite impressed by the dramatic contrast and the extra bit of richness. HDR gaming is becoming more and more mainstream on the PC, with new titles almost certainly supporting it, and this really is a solid monitor for delivering visuals that are a decent step up versus a standard dynamic range screen. But the second flaw with the specification of the CRG9 though is sadly in this HDR field, as it's the backlighting system that consists of a mere 10 zones of edge lighting, a massively far cry from the 512 that you'll find on the Acer X35 and Asus PG35VQ. This means that while the screen can get super bright, it's unable to truly deliver the magic that you're only really going to see from a G-Sync Ultimate display, with blooming and lower contrast as a direct result of that inferior backlight. But does any of this really actually matter though? Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it would be nice to have a full array local dimming system and the best HDR experience possible, but I think this sort of strikes the right balance at the moment, because this is actually a very good price proposition at the moment. It costs maybe slightly less than two equivalent 27-inch 1440p gaming monitors next to each other, which, if you ask me, is what it should cost. Whereas something like the PG35VQ is currently around about £2,500, which is crazy, and I don't think many people want to or should spend that amount of money on a monitor, especially when you're getting more screen for less money. And this is exactly why this is a monitor that is super easy to recommend to the right person. It's sharp, immersive, bright, great value for money despite being over £1,000 to purchase. I'd say that I do liken it to buying a sports car, in that it does have some flaws, it's not appropriate for everything, but as long as you're prepared for this and you know going in what it can and can't do and what it's good for, then I think you're going to love it. Just make sure that you can actually fit this on your desk, otherwise you're going to be in for a world of pain, or at least a world of getting a new desk. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It helps out so much, you really wouldn't believe. If you do want to check out current pricing, then you can find my links to this down in the description below. And of course, while you're down there, don't forget to check out our sponsor Corsair and their epic new K95 Platinum XT. This is a keyboard for champions, with the very best Cherry MX switches offering extreme speed, and the molded double-shot PBT keycaps providing a luxury feel and endurance that needs to be seen to be believed. All of this, along with USB pass-through, easy to use media and macro keys, stunning RGB lighting, and now even Elgato Stream Deck support, this firmly puts the K95 Platinum XT at the top of the leaderboard. Grab your new keyboard today with the links down below. Don't forget to get subscribed for more monitor reviews just like this. If you do want to see some more, you can find them in the end screen. And as I say, please hit the like button if you've enjoyed this video. It really does help out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Would your desk even fit this? I'm really interested to hear from you. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.